So lately I've been experimenting with Soothe. Soothe is probably one of the best plugins that deals with nasty, harsh vocals.
Really great stuff. So I highly recommend this plugin.
It sounds pretty good even when you crank it up a little bit. For some genres, you know, when you don't want it to be so harsh and so kind of, you know, blasting in your face, this is gonna be a, you know, lifesaver.
Recently I found myself in a situation with some messed up material that I couldn't really fix with just some tight EQ notches. So Soothe came to mind, and I just had to cave in and get it, and it really helped.
There you have it, Soothe 2. In my opinion, this is a really useful plugin.
And then I can put the Soothe on it, get rid of all of the unwanted frequencies, and then open it up afterwards, and it's beautiful. So I'm like, wow, I just used one plugin where I used to use 5. Do you have any absolute go-to that you always use? I'm sure it changes from song to song, but is there anything you always use?
Soothe, you know, Soothe ends up on the vocal of a lot. Like, that thing is amazing.
I think the moral of the story is buy Soothe, and I know
I can't really imagine not having it. Like, it is that useful.
So what is Soothe 2? Well, Soothe 2 is a dynamic resonance suppressor. What exactly does that mean? Well, it automatically detects resonances across the whole frequency range and applies reduction only to the harsh and resonant parts of the signal where and when it's needed. It can find its uses on individual channels as well as on buses and even in mastering applications. For instance, you could use it to reduce harshness from close mic'd sources, to clean up low-mid muddiness as a transparent de-esser, or to even out poking bass buildups. So let me give you sort of a quick start way to use Soothe in a real-world application, in this case, acoustic guitar. We're going to start first with the left side here. And I'll just bring that straight to the middle. You can already begin to see how that a lot of the resonances, the honkiness of the strings in the guitar were really taken out just by utilizing this plugin here. So let's do a quick before and after again. The great thing about this delta setting too is that we can actually listen to just the area that's being affected, and then it sort of trains your ears into hearing what you're actually removing. So let's enable delta now. This is the honky area that I was telling you about that I was trying to remove. So now when we bypass it, you can hear it introduced back into the mix. And when we re-enable the plugin, you can see that it's nearly vanished. By turning up the depth, we can pretty much just completely get rid of it altogether. Okay, so now I'd like to take care of some of those low mids that are sort of booming, and I'll just do that by simply moving around one of these other instances right here. Okay, so this is with the plugin enabled. I'm going to bypass it. Enable. Bypass. Enable. Sounds much better. Okay, now we're going to work on the DI portion of this. Now, DIs by nature just do not sound good at all. So if we can do something with this DI and really get it to sound well and jive well together, this is going to be pretty amazing. All right, so now I'm going to try to take out some of the clacky honkiness that you get from the DI source here. And you can notice that you can actually make the Q larger or smaller. And I'm going to make it a little bit smaller to make it more of a surgical approach to this. Okay. Okay, so lastly, I'm just using it to take out some of the clackiness. Okay, so this is before. And this is after. So as you can see, it's already dramatically cleaned up this DI source, and I didn't even really dive too deep into the settings themselves. I just kind of played around with it until I made it work. The great thing about this plugin as well is you'll notice that it's almost completely transparent. I mean, you're hearing changes take place, but unless your ears are really attuned to what's happening, you don't even really notice them until you put it back in and you realize, wow, that really made it sound better. So once again, let's go ahead and pan this back to the right now where it was to begin with. And we'll listen to these before and after and see if we've made any kind of a difference. So, okay, so this is before. And this is after. Before. And after. Okay, so now those should set a lot better in context with the mix, and let's hear that now.
He's got a golden guitar and $1 million sound. Everywhere that he goes, he's selling out shows, bringing people from all around. And he's got money.
Okay, so now this is what it would sound like in context with the mix if it was only the compression that was enabled and not the Soothe 2 plugin on the acoustic guitars.
He's got a golden guitar and $1 million sound.
So as you can see, by using the Soothe 2 plugin, we were able to actually get those acoustic guitar tracks to sort of nestle in behind the instrumentation instead of those low mids and the high mids, that honkiness and that boominess taking over the mix and sort of muddying things up. You'll also notice that the vocals as well as the electric guitars actually gained more clarity by taking those things and extracting them from the acoustic guitars. So once again, let's listen to the acoustic guitars with the Soothe 2 plugin enabled, and now listen for exactly what I just spoke of.
He's got a golden guitar and $1 million sound. Everywhere that he goes,
it's magic. Okay, now we're going to use the Soothe 2 on some electric guitar. This is a lead guitar line that's going to be playing just underneath the vocal throughout the entirety of the song. So there's some areas of this lead guitar that are currently combating with the lead vocals and other instrumentation, and it's this area. All right, so now let's listen to this when we've extracted that. Without. With. Without. With. So another good thing that you can do with this is when you have your depth set to something that you kind of like, but you don't want to necessarily take that out by adjusting the depth again, you can just simply take the mix knob, which is really cool, and you can just bring the mix of it down to sort of accommodate what you're hearing and what you aren't hearing. So see, I think about right there, it sounds very natural, but I'm taking out that range that I'm talking about as well, without really destroying the track itself. All right, now let's listen to this in context with the mix. I'm going to go ahead and bypass it first, and then we will enable it as the mix plays.
he's got a golden guitar and $1 million sound. Everywhere that he goes, he's selling out shows, bringing people from all around. And he's got money, and that money's made him proud. He's had so much for so long, forgot what the blues is all about. But the crossroads are calling, time to pay your dues. Well, that sunlight.
So as you can see, because we removed a lot of those resonances that were fighting with the rest of the mix, we were actually able to turn that up a little bit more and to get it more present in the mix without it competing with other instrumentation. So yet again, the Soothe 2 has come to save the day on the electric guitars in this particular area. Okay, so now the next area where Soothe 2 is going to come in and save the day again is on this bass guitar track. Now, this bass guitar track, in order to get it cut through the mix, had to be very heavily saturated. However, the snappiness is just a bit too much, and yes, there's other ways that we could employ through various different methods of taking that out. However, if I can just reach for this one plug-in and it take care of it almost without even being noticed, then why not? So let's take a listen to the before and after in this case. This is before the plugin is enabled. And after. Before. After. As you notice, that string noise that is just kind of overpowering, completely gone, nothing else is really affected. Let's take a listen to just the delta of that so you can hear exactly what it's taking out. Yet again, Soothe 2 comes to save the day. Now let's listen to it in context with the mix. I'm going to bypass it first, and then we will enable it.
He's got a golden guitar and $1 million sound. Everywhere that he goes, he's selling out shows, bringing people from all around. And he's got money, and that money's made him proud. He's had so much for so long, forgot what the blues is all about. But the crossroads are calling, time to pay your dues. Well, that sunlight, midnight is coming after you. And the crossroads are calling, time to reap what you sow.
So yet again, when listening to this in context with the rest of the mix, we can bring the bass up and it not sound overpowering, and that clankiness of the strings not begin to actually interfere with other things in the mix. So there's 3 different instances now where the Soothe 2 plugin has come in to save the day in this particular mix, and also to get things louder in the mix, more dynamic, and without as much frequency masking. Is this even real? All right, now let's take a look at some of the factory presets. I'm going to use this one on the master bus. I'm going to go to master, and then let's go with what everyone is always wanting to do on their master bus, and that's get less mud. So I'm going to go ahead and select this one. And now let's just bypass it first, and we will enable it as the mix plays.
He's got a golden guitar and $1 million sound. Everywhere that he goes, he's selling out shows. shows, bringing people from all around. And he's got money, and that money's made him proud. He's had so much for so long, forgot what.
Okay, so I want you to take a listen specifically to the lower end range of the vocals whenever I enable this. So right now it's bypassed. I'm going to enable it as the mix plays and listen particularly to the vocals.
He's got a golden guitar and $1 million sound.
Immediately,
everywhere that he goes, he's selling out shows, bringing people from all around. And he's got money.
so you can hear immediately it's beginning to clean up that lower mid-range on them vocals.
He's got a golden guitar and $1 million sound. Everywhere that he goes, he's selling out shows, bringing people from all around. And he's got money, and that money's made him proud. He's had so much for so long, forgot what the blues is all about. But the crossroads are calling, time to pay your dues. Well, that sunlight, midnight is coming after you. And the crossroads are calling, time to reap what you sow. What would it profit to gain the world and lose your soul? You've squandered your wealth on things that won't last. You've been.
So as you can see, by throwing the Soothe 2 plugin on the master bus and using just one of the presets, Less Mud on the master, we were able to already clean up a lot of the low-end muddiness that was sort of masking the vocal frequencies as well as causing the kick and the bass not to play well together. This is just, yet again, another instance where the Soothe 2 plugin has come in to save the day, and I don't know why you wouldn't buy this. As stated before, you can use Soothe 2 as a transparent de-esser. I've taken off the de-esser that I already had on here, as well as the one that was on this vocal strip, so that you can really get a good representation of exactly what it was doing, and so that those aren't actually doing any heavy lifting whatsoever. Let's go ahead and take a listen now to what the Soothe 2 can do with just a factory preset, and we'll just go ahead straight to Vocal De-esser by Joe Ciccarelli. We're going to start with it bypassed, and then we'll enable it.
He's got a golden guitar and $1 million sound. Everywhere that he goes, he's selling out shows, bringing people from all around. And he's got money, and that money's made him proud. He's had so much for so long, forgot what the blues is all about.
That is amazing. That is probably the most transparent de-esser I think I've ever heard in my life. Soothe 2 has been designed with ease of use in mind, and in most cases should be quick to set up, saving you time and your ears for the creative work that lies ahead. The plugin loads up the factory default preset, which serves as a good starting point. The main section houses the most important parameters: soft and hard mode, depth, sharpness, and selectivity, as you can find here. The processing algorithm of Soothe 2 comes in two flavors: soft for a touchier adjustment and hard for more drastic measures. Now, in most cases, it's recommended that you start out on soft mode. In some other situations, hard mode might actually be more suitable. For example, in hard mode, you could tame an otherwise great sounding but a little too boomy double bass take, or isolate an edgy 2.5 kilohertz peak from the lead vocalist buried in a busy mix. The controls of depth, sharpness, and selectivity are the core settings of this particular plugin. The depth adjusts the overall amount of the reduction. More depth then leads to deeper cuts. Sharpness controls the width or the Q of the individual cuts, and selectivity changes what kinds of cuts it's going to make. For instance, whether to focus less on overall or to focus on just individual resonances. With the factory default preset as the starting point, you can soften most vocals just by turning up the depth setting to your liking. The EQ nodes on the frequency graph control the weighting curve that is used to focus the processing on specific frequency areas. Clicking on a node on the graph selects the corresponding EQ band. In the output section, you can toggle the delta, which, when turned on, will have Soothe 2 output the difference of the input and the processed audio. This lets you actually hear what is being reduced from the audio. On a stereo instance, for example when on a stereo track, you can actually change the stereo settings from the stereo section below the main controls. In this section, you can toggle between left-right or mid-side stereo modes, control the stereo length of the resonance detection, and focus the processing toward either one of the channels with the stereo balance setting. With Soothe 2, you can adjust the speed with which the processor reacts to the resonance as well. The attack parameter lets you slow down the reaction time, and the release parameter slows down the speed with which the notch disappears after they're no longer needed. Slowing down the attack can be very useful when working with material that has sharp transients, for example with drum overheads, as the snare drum attack can be let through while cleaning away the nasty resonances from the cymbals. Similar to Soothe 2 and Spiff, Soothe 2 has a number of oversampling and time resolution options as well, referred together as the quality settings. Oversampling sets the amount of spectral oversampling, offering a better frequency resolution for the processor to distinguish resonances when increased. Using high oversampling settings is necessary for accurate handling of low frequencies. Resolution increases the temporal resolution. With a resolution set on high or ultra, Soothe 2 will more often refresh the reduction filter it intentionally uses, which can be audible with material that is abundant of transients with complex waveforms. With the offline rendering quality settings, the plugin will switch to different quality settings when doing an offline render or bouncing to a file. This is dependent on how a DAW interprets offline rendering. For instance, in some cases, freezing the track is not considered as offline rendering by the DAW. The utility bar sits on the top edge of the graph. From here, you can open up the preset menu, access the configuration menu for global settings, do A/B switching and copying to compare plugin settings, undo or even redo changes, or open up tutorials. As you can see, the possibilities for this plugin are limitless, and there are a wide variety of applications that this plugin can be used on, and with very good results. As you've already heard and seen for yourself, this plugin is definitely well worth its weight in gold, and I believe, if I might say so myself, that it will probably end up saving you a lot of time and headaches in the near future. If you found this review of the Soothe 2 plugin useful, let me know in the comment section down below exactly how you're going to use it and how you're going to implement it in your creative processes. Remember, there are no hard and fast rules in audio, and a plugin like this is just another great plugin that you can use to break the rules in order to obtain great results. So until next time, remember that we can all dream alone, we can create alone, but together we can achieve so much more.